Hi guys, welcome to our first session for week 2. I'm excited about everything that was turned in last week. You guys did an awesome job. Our next lecture is tomorrow at 1 p.m. Today we're going to go through some announcements. We're going to talk about criticism. We're going to then talk about the discussion for week 2, user experience. Go over the final project overview just to make sure we're all staying on the same page. And then we're going to take a look at what we're doing for this week and start playing with the weekly challenge. Don't forget, if you are behind or need help this week with finalizing your graphics, please go into the Student Success Center and get help. Christy's schedule is posted in our announcements. But since most of you will be working in Illustrator, making your final graphics, you can go in and see any of the graphic design learning coaches, and they will be able to help you with that. We're going to talk a little bit about criticism because next week, the first lecture of the week will be solely dedicated to feedback from what you turn in this week. So I wanted to talk about a little bit about criticism. Not that I think that you guys really need this, because the work that was turned in over last week was awesome, and the extreme majority, you guys hit the mark. You had a great animation planned out. It told a story. It definitely got you from point A to point B and what you wanted the user to do. I couldn't be more excited, guys. That's an awesome task and one that I rarely see. So this class is just really, truly rocking it. Keep up the good work. But talking about criticism, it's good. Unfortunately, in both graphic design and web design, it is full of criticism. There are always going to be people that like your work, people that don't like your work, and people who want to make you better. And therefore, they point out the things that could have been done better. And it's really hard, especially as new graphic designers or new web designers, to kind of take that criticism and truly run with it and not get defensive. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. In reality, regardless of where you work or who you work for, being able to take criticism is part of the job description. Whether you're getting feedback from your boss or client, having a proper perspective on criticism and a sound understanding of how to use it effectively is important. Who likes criticism? Nobody? Not many people enjoy criticism. In fact, many have developed a thick skin and take pride in their ability to brush it off and move on. But here's the reality, and this is the wisdom behind criticism. Criticism is the only way you can be a great designer, whether that be a graphic designer or a web designer. Criticism gives you that vital outside perspective on your work, uncovering potential areas for improvement that you're unable to see for yourself. Feedback challenges you to be better. Rather than settle for your own standards, you need to push for higher standards. And criticism and feedback do that for you. If nothing else, dealing with a critic can dramatically improve the way you communicate. An essential skill for any successful designer. Constructive criticism often gives you the kick in the butt you need to learn a new design skill or a new technique, or self-motivation. Self-motivation is great, but everyone could use a hand from time to time. We all kind of get into this groove and where we're just kind of comfortable where we're at, but that's not the way our professional world works. We are designers, whether it be print designers, web designers, animators, game builders, whatever the case may be, we are designers. And so getting into those grooves where we're happy and we're comfortable isn't going to last very long because we're going to become outdated very, very fast. And so you have to keep learning. You have to keep striving to be better. Otherwise, you kind of jump down the totem pole real fast because you haven't stayed caught up with the trends and the new skills and the new technologies and programming languages and the new UI and UX interfaces that are going on and things like that. So how can criticism help you? Well, it will help you recognize bad habits for sure. This is the first step for a good designer to become a great designer. If you can communicate professionally with someone that criticizes you, then you can communicate with the toughest of clients. Being a great designer is all about continued education. The greatest designers always have to be humble. So how do you take criticism? Well, you have to be humble. You have to have that right attitude. Everyone looks at design through a filter shaped by personal experience. And this filter is usually very different from your own. While you may have a degree in design and 10 years of experience, not everyone will agree with your expert opinion. So don't expect them to. The important thing is to have a proper attitude from the beginning. Expect for others to disagree with you. And be open to the new perspectives. Align your expectations and understand that criticism is the part of the process. While harsh criticism can cut deep and even scar at times, it can also motivate, instruct, and do all the good things that we've talked about before. It essentially makes you better. And I get it. Sometimes it just hurts. I've been there. Don't think that I don't get criticism. Still, I get criticism. Absolutely. But I have learned, and it took me a while to learn it, so I'm hoping this helps you guys kind of pick up this a little faster, that you can take criticism negatively or you can take it positively. Once you train yourself to really start taking it positively, you will see yourself jump a whole extreme level in your design skills, because now you're open and you're listening, and therefore you're learning from someone that is better than you in that certain area. That doesn't mean they're a better designer than you. It just simply may mean that they have more experience in that particular area. So therefore, in that one specific area, they have something to teach you. You've got to be open to learning it. So how do you take criticism? Well, check your first reaction. And that is the number one thing. If you don't remember anything from us talking about criticism, remember this. Check your first reaction. For most people, me included, the first reaction to criticism is to get defensive or even lash out. If this sounds like you, take time to develop the habit of taking a deep breath, counting to 10 before you respond. Despite that initial sting, you need honest feedback to become a better designer. You need to definitely separate the wheat from the chaff. Unfortunately, not all criticism is constructive. Some people in a bad mood, bitter, or just plain negative or jealous will take any chance to put others down. Some are also inexperienced or unqualified to give valuable feedback. You have to learn whether it is constructive criticism or they're just simply those types of people, and we all have them in our life. You will all come across them in the workplace. You may have family members, they are just negative people, And they tend to have a habit of trying to bring everyone else down. And so nothing is ever good enough. You have to learn to ignore that criticism, because that is not a reflection on you. That is a reflection on them. And you have to remember that. And I know that criticism still stings. It does. I have one of those family members. And sometimes that criticism still stings. As I get more open to criticism, it has become a lot easier, because I can just kind of let the water roll off. Because it doesn't matter. I know that they're just negative, and I'm not going to allow them to pull me down in that gutter with them. And so you have to learn to ignore it and not let it affect you. You need to separate the good from the bad. Being able to separate useful feedback from cheap shots and misinformation is important. You need to distinguish between the two, and that takes some practice sometimes and some experience. But you have to open yourself up to criticism before you can truly determine whether it's a cheap shot, they just don't know what they're talking about, but we're trying to be helpful, or they are giving you sound criticism. Good criticism should be specific. Valuable feedback is always specific and logical. Oops. It's always specific, it's always logical, and it's defined. This logo is ugly, or I don't like the color choice, are examples of useless criticism. They don't tell you anything. I really don't like that logo. Well, that's not good criticism. Criticism should be actionable. It should enable you to take immediate action. You should come away with a clearer idea of how to improve the concept and what path to follow. Meaning, they said, I really don't like that squiggly line in that logo. Well, that's good criticism, because you know exactly what's wrong and where you need to start to try and fix that issue. I really don't like that green and red together. Criticism should be specific. It should also be objective. Useful feedback it's unbiased. It gives you a unique perspective without an ulterior motive. Objective criticism can always be even-tempered and appropriate. Most important thing you can do, even when you don't agree, make the change and then compare the before and after. It's easier to accept what you can see right in front of you. This is another thing you guys need to remember, because if you have not already experienced it, at some point before you graduate, you will. Your instructor is going to give you feedback that you just absolutely don't agree with, because you absolutely loved what you turned in. And your instructor is telling you all these things need to be fixed. This is what you need to do. Make the changes, compare the before and after, and be open to which one really looks better. In some cases, you're still going to think yours is better, and that's okay, guys. We are all different individuals. We are all different designers. We have different tastes. We have different wants. We have different needs. Excuse me. So don't be afraid to say, no, mine's better. You want your grade to improve? Turn in the one you changed and keep the one you made in your portfolio, because that's a part of you. But don't just decide yours is better without making those changes first and truly comparing them. Because it's absolutely unimaginatively true that when you compare them, it's easier to accept when you're seeing it for yourself than just trying to see it in your mind. Because you're really able to manipulate that and make it look way worse than it would have looked if you'd actually made the changes, and it would have looked 10 times better. Make those changes, then compare it, because it's one of the biggest ways you can learn and adapt what you just learned to other projects. It's really probably the hardest step in a learning experience, but far the most important, however. Criticism, its purpose, you need to act on it. Don't just go back to business as usual. Make an effort to improve. The greatest thing about criticism is that it uncovers our blind spots, weaknesses, only others can see. Look for new ideas. If you can't learn anything new, look for a new idea. A different take, a different perspective can give you a chance to examine your work from a viewpoint that you would never have considered otherwise. Just as you get inspiration from a gallery or another talented designer, you can find ideas and inspiration in constructive criticism. Seeing it just requires you to step back, be curious, and approach the criticism objectively, not as if it was a stab to your design skills. Approach that criticism objectively. It could be incredibly useful. And in a lot of cases, and I'm speaking from experience, it is very, very useful. You need to dig deeper when necessary. At some point, everyone has received vague, unclear, or unactionable feedback. You tend to get a lot of that from your clients. Just because they don't understand, don't know how to give feedback on the design. So it's part of life. Unfortunately, unless you take the initiative, this type of feedback is more or less useless to everyone involved. However, if you're willing to dig a little deeper, you may uncover things that no one else was willing to tell you. Start by asking open-ended questions and get to the core of the issue. Questions like, I want to understand your point of view. Could you please provide more detail? Or, how can I improve? Ask for specifics, and above all else, honesty. Always, always thank the critic, and there's several reasons why. Whether that criticism you received is genuine or downright rude, make a point to say thank you. Thanking even your harshest critics can create a lasting impression, keep you humble, and open the door to additional feedback in the future. And those that are doing it because it's just what they do and the criticism is just rude, when you say thank you and don't allow yourself to come out of your skin and get angry, when you simply say thank you, guess what? You've just shut them up because they have no idea how to deal with you, and most likely in the future, they won't even attempt to pass their negativity on to you. Be humble, say thank you, and mean it. That is the getter, because when you mean it, they really have no idea what to expect from you, and they just got put in their place, and now they're really, really, truly feeling like a tool. Thank them. Expressing gratitude will also make you feel better about the experience and help you alleviate an innate avoidance of feedback and criticism you make. It really makes you feel good when someone's being really rude, and the criticism isn't to try and make you better, it's just trying to knock you down a peg or two. Really, really makes you feel good when you say thank you and they shut up, and you can see in their eyes that, yeah, they're feeling a little guilty. They have no idea how to deal with you, and your little inner voice is doing a happy dance because you're thinking, ha, 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 ha. Trust me, it's a really great feeling. Say thank you. Make it a habit, because it does work, I promise. So, how do you handle this type of stuff? Clarity and purpose. Trying to figure out how you should take criticism and how much emphasis you should put on that criticism. That sort of thing is what this is all about. So if your client says something like, bigger checkout button with flames on it, you know, he may just write a new little note that says, more flames, thanks. Well, you kind of have to read between the line and say, okay, he wants a bigger button, more flames, because he wants that to stand out. You have to ask a few questions there. Concept, purpose to the covert. Concept purpose is to convert and sell. Client is trying to tell you that your UI is not obvious enough. He doesn't know how to tell you that. All he can say is this needs to be bigger and more flames. Well, you have to read between those lines and understand that what he's saying is this needs to stand out more. That it's blending in too much. And this is a big thing because it's the call to action. Buy, 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 sell, 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 sell. And that's the kind of feedback you're going to get from your clients. They're going to do little notes like more flames, not dark enough. Well, you need to take that and really convert it into what they're truly saying. Because it's not, they're not saying just this isn't dark enough. They're saying that, hey, the UI here is lacking. So that means you need to look at everything else, because once you fix one button and it's suddenly jumping off the page, but you have some other actionable buttons that contribute to your interface, they're going to go back, they're going to make another note on one other button and say, this needs to do this. And you send it back to them, they send it back to the next button. This needs to, you guys have to learn to take whatever little note they've written, whatever little note they've said, and say, okay, this needs to be different, but why? What is this affecting? And is there anything on the page similar that I need to make adjustments to because the UI or the UX isn't strong enough? And make those adjustments before you send it back to the client. That way, they're not sending that thing back to you 100 times to make little bitty changes. You get them all done, you send it back, and they think, wow, she really knows what she's doing. He really knows what he's doing. Clients get really frustrated when they have to send a design back to you more than twice. Really more than once. Twice is pushing it. And then they're getting frustrated and they're making little mental notes that maybe you're not as good as they thought you were going to be, and so they're going to have to find a new designer, that sort of thing. So make sure when you're seeing that type of criticism from customers, that not only are you making a mental note of how that customer likes things designed, I keep notes on my clients, the actual notes, on little things that I know that they like to see in their design, so that I can make sure that I do those things, whereas I have other customers that don't like that type of thing. They like something else. I keep notes on all of my customers. And when I do a job, I open those notes, go through my design notes, see them, what they like, what they don't like, so that I can make sure that I'm not putting something or not doing something, especially button-wise. I like customers that just really have a thing for buttons and icons. And so I keep little notes on all of that stuff, so that when I'm making an icon for them, or I am updating the web page for them and have to add a new button and things like that, I'm doing the things I know they like, so that when I send it to them, it's good to go and they don't have to send it back to me. You have to learn from those experiences. But let's face it, you're going to have tons and tons and tons of customers. The only way you can keep them straight is to make those little notes about their likes and their dislikes and what they expect. And then you can look them up. It's not like I have pages on my customers. I don't. Sometimes I'll make a little note in there that says, see that if they're doing something with their navigation bar. I do a lot of updating on Navigate. I have a few customers that want to change their navigation bar every other month. And I did a little notes on there, see last design. And it's not going to go back and see what they like this time, what I did the time before that, and move forward with that, because they really don't like repeating stuff too often. And things like that. Those are the kind of little notes I make. I'm not talking making papers on your clients. Just little design notes, so that it points out the things they like, the things they don't, or where you can go to remind yourself of what they like. And then, of course, you're going to get criticism and feedback from your peers. And it may be things like more icons equals better designing. Do they understand design? No, they're your peers. And unless they're your work peers, they have absolutely no clue. They may say something like nice work, but not really original. Well, how would they know if it's original when they don't know what it applies to? When your concept may be something like the true business purpose is forgotten because they don't know. Colorful bunnies, rainbows, and abstract shapes take over. So if you're asking your friends for feedback on whether they like something, make sure they know exactly what you were doing, what your goal, your ultimate goal was for that design. Don't just ask them if they like it, because that's not only doing you a disservice, it's doing them a disservice as well, because they have no clue. Even a fellow designer, if you're asking for criticism, make sure they know what that was for, what that design was specifically for, what it targeted, what the goal was, because that's the only way that we can really say, yeah, this looks good, or no, you kind of missed it here, try this. Maybe adjust this color a little bit, or this feeling doesn't really go with your overall goal. You need to change the mood of this icon, that sort of thing. So always make sure, especially when you know you're talking to somebody that doesn't have those design skills, that you're explaining these things to them. That, this is what I was going for. This is the mood I needed. Does this do it? Then they can give you honest feedback. And then there's, of course, your family. Mom and dad and brothers and sisters. And one of those thinks everything you do is awesome. Now, usually we all have one, whether it be a sibling or a mother or a father, that will be absolutely honest with us, while the other one is, oh, it's adorable, it's awesome, you're so good. And it's great to have people like that in your life. It is absolutely great. And it's great for the confidence. But you definitely need to remember that they are not being 100% honest with you, because they can't. Because everything that comes from you, they want to put on the fridge just like when you were 5. And while that is a great feeling, it's not always the best way to learn. So make sure you're branching out and finding those people that will be truly honest with you and not afraid to be honest with you. Most people will take a chance at least once, and that's when you need to remember, check your first response, make sure you thank them, and don't get angry with them. These are your friends. They love you. Even when they're being honest with you and you don't necessarily like it, thank them genuinely and remember that they love you, that they are there for you, and that you asked for this. And make sure they understand what they're looking at before you ask them for that criticism. Okay, guys, our discussion for week 1. I'm sure we have all heard the buzzword UX. By now, you guys have heard UX or user experience over and over and over and over and over. But what does it really mean when it comes to animated advertisements? First, you're going to revise your brief concept description, your little storyline you gave me from your instructor critique that you submitted in week 1. You're going to share your revised paragraph describing your animation. Now, most of you did an absolutely excellent job on your storyline, and your description was very clear. It was very precise. I knew exactly what your animation was going to be about. You went from start to finish. In some way, you identified the problem and the solution. And I had a really good instant feeling of what your animation was going to be before I really looked at your storyboard. In those cases, you didn't get any feedback on your storyline. If you did not receive feedback on your storyline, it is fine the way it is. You may want to, after you've gone in and really thought about the UX in your your storyline and things like that, you may decide you need to add some things to it. I did not grade those storylines in a way that was beyond the information you already had about UI and UX. So as you're going through things this way, you may discover some things and go back in and just add those. No one really had a huge problem with their storyline. They were all very excellent, as I said before. The extreme majority of you guys, you couldn't have done any better. I was completely blown away when I was grading this weekend and Monday that you guys rocked this so well. So that's just awesome. Pat yourselves on the back and celebrate that. So if you decide you need to add something in there, add it. If you don't, just copy and paste your storyline in there and you're fine. Then you need to find 3 resources. Don't forget to cite them that define UX in animation and summarize the definition in your own words. After reading and comprehending what they are telling you in your own words, describe how your concept for your final project will achieve a good user experience. In your replies to your fellow classmates, give your feedback of what they have explained and suggestions of how they may improve their concept or UX. If you are commenting on someone's concept that you think is great, tell them why. If you find some holes in it that you need to be filled, then tell them, point it out, tell them why. This is where you guys get to play with criticism, taking it and giving it. So make sure when you're giving that criticism, whether positive or pointing out something that you think could be done better, that your criticism is actionable. Tell them not just you don't like it or you need to do this or you need to tell them why. So let's talk about user experience responsibilities. User experience design is the process of development and improvement of the quality interaction between the user and all facets of the company. User experience ultimately builds that bond between the user and the company. User experience design is responsible for being hands-on with the process of research, testing, development, content, and prototyping to test for quality results. User experience design is, in theory, a non-digital cognitive science practice, but used and defined predominantly by digital industries. There is a good, let me see if I can get this brought up on YouTube because this is an excellent video on YouTube. Let me see. And we had some problem with this playing. Come on. Oops. Let me see if I can get this in my browser so we make sure you guys can see that. This time, one of the videos last week, apparently there was a little bit of a problem getting it to view on the recording. So I want to make sure you guys get to see it. There it is. I'm gonna copy. Oops, there we go. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Maybe.
User experience design, untangling the knot. User experience design, or UX, captures the engagement a person has with a thing. A well-designed product or service eliminates negativity and creates positive experiences. Users decide upon entering your website within 10 seconds whether to continue or exit and move on. Happy people tell other people, who tell other people how excited they are about your product, which is why it is so important to create a positive user experience by either problem or satisfying a need. Experiences begins by finding out as much as we can about what drives our customers. Discovering user needs helps us understand why people do the things they do and supports the company behind the product or service, forming the critical bond between business needs and customer needs. But watch out! When user experience design is applied is critical. UX is not the icing on the cake, but the cake itself. Design early. When someone meets your product for the first time, you have 10 seconds to grab them or lose them. So in my role as a UX designer, I turn that which is hard to explain into something which is easy to understand, and change goals which are difficult to achieve into tasks that are simple to do, which makes your product look better and makes people want to come back to you instead of going to your competition. UX just makes it all so much better.
That is a very good video for quickly going through UX and kind of putting a wow on it. Okay, this makes a little more sense. Because UX it's not the easiest thing to understand. But oops. But the reality is, if you went out to 4 different experts and you asked each one of them, what's user experience? What's it include? How does it affect design? That's where every single one of them is going to give you a different answer. They're all going to boil down to one thing, but it will be said in so many different ways that it seems like they've just told you 4 different things. But in reality, it all boils down to one thing: how the user is left feeling at the end. Really 2 things: how the user is left feeling at the end and whether they did what you wanted them to do. Now, you can't always guarantee they're going to do what you want them to do. You can get the majority to probably do that, but there's always going to be some that it's just not going to happen. You can never get that 100% of everybody that sees that animation or sees that advertisement is going to go out and buy that product. They may want to, they just simply can't. There's all kinds of reasons that lead to that not being a good goal to achieve. But you can make sure that every single person that sees that animation, sees that advertisement, isn't left confused. They are feeling exactly the way you wanted them to feel at the end, and that should always be good. Unless you're playing on the pity strings, using those emotional strings to pull out emotions that where you don't necessarily want them to feel good. You know, you want them to feel kind of bad so that they'll donate money to this cause or whatever. Then you want to just, it's all about making sure that your user feels the way you want them to feel. Whether or not that feeling pushes them into action is a whole nother thing. But they should always feel something. And it should be exactly what you wanted them to feel, not the opposite. That's really what user experience boils down to. It's all about the way they feel when it's done. So let's talk about this final project overview just to make sure we're all on the same page and we kind of keep our brain focused a little bit. That's the reason I do this every week, because it's a little hard. Not hard. It's easy to kind of stray and get a little confused. And so every week I will go through this final project, and it's just my way of trying to help you guys stay focused on the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So by the end of this mod, you will have conceptualized, created, produced, and published an animated advertisement to be presented to your professional portfolio. You have chosen a company at this point. You have done a storyboard and you have created your storyline that is going to sell a product or is focused on a social cause. And all of you have told an excellent story, or I've given you feedback about the things you need to do to take whatever you made and really truly make it into some type of advertisement that will work the way you want it to. So our week 2 overview, this is what we're doing this week. You have your discussion, which is worth 60 points. Your assignment this week is worth 120, and your assessment is worth 80. In week 2, you're going to be developing the story. During the next development stage, your story will develop even further and may need adjustments to accommodate technology restrictions or assets that may be better shown in a way slightly different than you conceptualized in your storyboard. This is common when you're first starting out, because you are still learning and learning the software to create your animations and looking for your instructor's feedback from your storyboard will help give you the directions whenever your concept will work as an animated advertisement. This week, you're going to revise your storyline if you need to and start creating the objects illustrations for your animations, for your storyboard concept. Now, I'm going to point this out because there were a few of you that had actual people that needed to walk around and things like that. If your drawing skills are not good enough that you can draw the different poses and do a frame by frame animation for the walking sequence, I will be quite honest with you guys, Animate is very rudimentary as far as making things look the way they really truly should. If you're just using stick figure type characters, making them walk is not hard. But if you're really drawing good characters for your animation, then you're going to want to do frame by frame. And whenever I have to make a person walk in Illustrator where you can see his feet and that sort of stuff, I always do frame by frame. One of the big tricks with this is, and if you stop and think about the things you saw on the internet, the little animated ads you've seen and things like that, most of the time when someone's walking, we only see the top half of their body, their head and their torso. We don't see their legs. They just kind of bounce up and down, and we know they're walking because they're moving forward and they're bouncing with their steps like they're supposed to be. That's done because making someone walk is not the easiest thing in the world. We will go through that, and we will look at walking tomorrow and that sort of thing for the demo on the assignment. But It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And it's especially not easy in Animate because it is pretty rudimentary. We're going to have to play with the bone tool some, and you guys are going to figure out real quick that it's pretty rudimentary. Bone tool doesn't work the way it should work or the way you think it should work. It works the way it works the way it's supposed to work, but not the way you would assume that it works, since this is an animation program. So with that said, if you have a character walking, you can do just like these directions are saying, and make your adjustment to your storyboard so everything's a little more zoomed in, and so you've cut your character off so you don't have to make the legs walk. You can just bounce your character up and down and walk it across the path like it's walking, and not have to worry about those leg motions, so to speak. You're going to define your user experience and describe how it relates to animated advertising. You're going to evaluate your animated story concept and revise for deployment using UX in mind. You're going to create your finished artwork for your animation by drawing the assets for your storyboard sketches. You're going to show proficiency in animated object assets over time. So what's that mean? Well, this week you will draw the assets in finished form from your storyboard sketches. Your document for submission will be the animated CC. Do not use Edge Animate or Flash Professional. Make sure you're using Animate CC. You're going to set the stage, the final size as you determined in your storyboard. And at this point, animating is not necessary. But all of your backgrounds, characters, graphics, type, and everything else should be completed, just not on your timeline. It can all go into your library. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's going to be very quick getting it into Animate so that it goes into your library. And then when you're ready to start animating next week, you just pull out what you need from your library to your artboard and put it on the timeline and give it enough frames, and then you just keep going from there. So any assets that you draw in Illustrator will need to be imported into Animate CC and placed on the stage, made into a symbol or a graphic or whatever, a button, if for some reason you have one. And therefore it automatically saves into your library, and you can delete it off your artboard. And I'll go through the demo on all of this tomorrow because it's really quick. And we're going to look at some drawing tools in Illustrator. I always get a few questions in this class about drawing in Illustrator, so we are going to look at a little bit of that tomorrow and go through that demo and that sort of thing. Avoid bringing text from Illustrator. Instead, make it in Animate. As a matter of fact, anything that you can make in Animate, instead of copying and pasting from Illustrator, make it in Animate. It will keep your file size smaller, and it will make it much easier to animate next week, because if you already have this huge file size, because of all the files and stuff you've made in Illustrator, then when you start animating it, guess what? Your file size gets even bigger, and having to run all of this in Adobe Animate will start slowing down your computer, which will start causing Animate to freeze. And then you start losing your work. So anything you can draw in Animate, draw it in Animate. It will keep your file size smaller. Make sure you are saving often, so that if you freeze your computer up and Animate crashes, you haven't lost everything. You've only lost maybe what you last did. When I am having to do a lot of assets in Illustrator to bring into Animate, I save after every single one. Bring one in, turn it into a symbol so it goes into the library, delete it, save it, go back to the next one. That way, if Animate crashes on me, and I will be upfront with you guys, Animate has a real habit of crashing. So if it crashes on me, I simply have to open it back up and only repeat the last thing I did instead of the last 10 things, or start from the very beginning from scratch. It was a lesson I definitely learned the hard way. Don't make that mistake. It's very frustrating, and it's very time consuming. Just be sure you're saving often. You're going to create, now your directions tell you to create a new ActionScript 3 document. Remember what I told you last week. Anywhere that it says that, forget it. Start with an HTML5 Canvas document. You do not want to have to go through the trouble of trying to convert your ActionScript 3 document to an HTML5 document next week. Please, please, please start with an HTML5 Canvas document. You will save yourself a lot of trouble next week if you start with HTML5 Canvas. Since there will be various published files created for this project for the remainder of the mod, it is highly recommended that you create a folder directory on your PC. You guys should already have this folder. Nope, you don't have it yet. You have only turned in your assessment. You're going to be publishing your files every week from this point forward, just like you did for the assessment. They have to be published so that you turn in your JavaScript and your HTML file and your FLA file. So you need to make sure that you set up a folder. You can put it in your documents, you can put it on your desktop. Just keep it in one location so it's easy to find, and name it Animated Advertisement. And that's where you're going to save your FLA file. That's where you're going to export all your files to, and then you're just going to zip it, and you're going to change the name of that zip file to whatever it's supposed to name that week. And this week you need to name it DS246 assignment 2, your first and last name, and you're going to submit it for grading. Again, I recommend using an HTML5 Canvas file from the start. You can absolutely ignore those directions where it tells you to start with an ActionScript 3 document. ActionScript 3 is the old version of Flash. This class definitely needs to be updated to get rid of that line, and we're working on it. Yeah, we're working on getting that updated and approved. It's a whole process, so it's not something that can be done overnight. Anyway, ActionScript 3 documents, you don't see them on the internet very often anymore, because in order to run them, you have to have the Flash plugin. Whereas if you're using HTML5 Canvas, it will run on any web page without the plugin, because it is an HTML5 Canvas file and not ActionScript 3. So start with HTML5 Canvas, because for the most part, ActionScript 3 document option will probably disappear in the next 3 years at least, and it won't even be on there anymore. There's no reason for you guys to know how to work in it, because it is not the standard of web development anymore. So work in HTML5 Canvas. Just remember that you do have to publish your files. Even if you make the ActionScript 3, I am requiring that all of your files get published. Using the HTML5 Canvas file does publish one additional, sometimes 2 additional files, because it is producing your JavaScript file to go with it. And so you do have to remember to turn in all of those files. That is why I'm telling you now to make a folder to save that Flash file in. So when you go up to File and you go to Publish and you go to OK, it automatically puts every single one of those files into that folder. And all you have to do is zip the folder. And so you aren't trying to hunt down in your desktop or your documents which files just got generated. Because if you turn in an HTML file and it's not accompanied with the correct JavaScript file or the correct assets folder, I'm not going to be able to see it, and it's not going to count as being published. Okay, guys, let's talk about the weekly challenge. Let's hop over to, excuse me. Let's hop over to Adobe Animate. There we go. Okay, I think I'm good. This week's challenge is all about masking and continued use of motion twins that you started last week with your name. This week, we're going to learn about masking because a lot of your storyboards indicated you're going to need some masking. So I want to make sure we start on that early so you guys can get some practice with it and we can do some really cool things. So we're going to do some simple masking. And then we're going to go into me doing the demo on my challenge that I'm going to post in the discussion. I'm going to go on out to 10 seconds and insert frame. And let's see, let's make a door. I'm going to make a doorway. There we go. Got a bit of a doorway here. Sorry guys, my alarm is going off. There we go. Okay, we have our doorway here. And we're just going to create another little object here. Turn it a different color though. There we go. Okay, so we have our object, we have our doorway. I need to create a motion tween on this. Turn it to a symbol. Yes, that's fine. Okay, so now our door is on one layer, our circle on another. And what I need it to do is pass through this door. Well, right now, it goes in front of the door. It doesn't look like it's passing through said door, though, does it? So if I make a new layer, the way that masking works, it doesn't really matter what color the mask is. I normally turn mine black just because it's easier to see, make sure I'm getting it covered up the way I want it. And with Animate, what you have to do is you need to cover the area that you want that object to be visible. I'm going to go right in here. Make this a little wider to make sure I get that entire area. So I'm going to cut it off. I don't want it quite to the edge. I want it a little out like that. And then I covered up my area. So I'm going to right click on this layer over here. And I'm going to say mask. So now let's see what happens. See where that's going? It disappears right into that door, right? And it's gone. Now, undoubtedly, I would have to make some adjustments to this. Unlock it. See my masking. I'm going to turn off that masking layer. Go here. And unlock that layer. I'm going to make a little bit of adjustment here. Like that. And then turn back on my masking and lock both those layers, and it automatically goes back to masking. I like that effect better. And it's in there and it's gone. And so it looks like it's disappearing in it. So the idea is you have to cover up the area in which you want the object to be seen in. That can become a little complicated. There's some tricks and things you're going to do, and that's why instead of just going through the tutorial showing you how the mask works and then saying go for it, I want to do a complete demo so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go through and erase these layers. I have to start from scratch. Go out 10 seconds. F5. And now I'm going to create a background. I'm going to create kind of something a little funky, I think. I want to do different. I'm going to go with a orangish, reddish kind of color here. I like this color. Kind of bright. And then there's some circles and a couple of different colors, I think. Color here. Go here and select all these brown ones. I don't think I really like this color. Let's see what else we have here. There we go. That works. So I've got a nifty little background going on there. I may actually take all of these. I think I'll make them all the same color like that. I like this better. Do a little bit of rearranging here. Oops. There we go. So now I have all these nice colors. Still not sure they're quite light enough though. That works better. And this is going to be my background layer. So I'm going to turn this off. And I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna lock this because I don't want my background interfered with. And I'm going to make a few cylinders. So I'm gonna draw my circle here. I don't want this color, so we're gonna have to fix this real quick. 100. I like that color. I'll put one here. About and grab my square tool here. Font. Object arrange. Bring to front. And ink. I need the back two pieces combined into one piece. I'm going to grab my square, hold my shift key down, select my circle, and I'm going to expand that field. So they turned into one object, and then I'm going to remake them into shape. And pull this back to the front, arrange, bring to front, and then grab my ink bottle again and click on my edges. That works. So now select both these shapes and copy and paste. Here. And I want to change the color of this one. Purple. And paste this one. We'll go with back cup. So now I have all three of these. And I am going to make a new layer. And make a little ball. Oops. Now I'm going to turn this into radial gradient. And I want to make a black ball, or do we want something a little more bright? Adjust that just a little bit. That works pretty good. I want to change my stroke to a bit of a darker color. Not quite that dark. There we go. Let's pull that over here. Let's try. A little too dark though. Lighter, too light. maximum right in there, I think will work. And then I need to figure out where I want this to start. I think we'll go here. And I'm going to create motion tween. And I'm going to go out to about, we'll start it in a second. 1 second, it's going to pass through to right there. And then in half a second, it's going to go all the way off the set of dartboard. And then I'm going to go another half a second. It's going to come up and into this one. And I'm going to half a second here because I want to spit all the way across the screen here. Second. Come down. And so here. I think you see how this overlapped here, and that's not what I want. I'm going to take this, and I'm simply going to pull it out so that I get that straight path. And I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to pull this up so I get more of a straight looking path there for it to go through. And then, half a second, actually, this path I want, oops, get right on top of this keyframe. There we go. This one I want it to take a little bit longer. I want it to take a full second. So I want it to be kind of slow here. And then when it spits out, I want it to be fast. So now we have that, and I have all these extra frames. We didn't even make 10 seconds, but I want this to kind of repeat over and over and over and over and over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these frames like that. And then I'm going to click on this layer. And copy frames. And I'm going to click where there's no frame at in this timeline. And go edit. Paste frames. And we go back to the beginning. So we've gone. Let's see what happens here. We go here. Through. Something's not right on this timeline. This should not be like that. And, haha, see what I mean about Flash just deciding to crash, and of course I hadn't saved it yet. No idea why I decided to crash on me. Let's see if my automatic saving was turned on. It should have been, but this is what happens, guys. Sometimes it just stops. It doesn't want to do anymore, and it will just shut down. Make sure you're saving it. Make sure you've got the automatic saving feature turned on. I may need to turn off my advanced layers. That will probably help. That ups the virtual memory computers you're taking. And I'm working on a large project that is debugging at the moment. So it's already taking up more than what I have. My automatic saving was on, so I didn't lose absolutely everything. But as you see, I did lose a lot of it. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off and just use basic layers and fix this real quick. We still have. Let me undo for a second. That's got a stroke on it. turn stroke off. Come on. There we go. And back to the front. There's my cylinder. One, two, three. Put this down a little bit. Like that. Okay. There's one. And new layer. Bigger. That works. Okay. Right click, create motion swing. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and shorten this. Since I know it needs to be shorter, we need to go 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half. Right in there. Okay, so back to 1. Oops. Move my ball off the artboard. And 1. And half up. And 1. Let's come up and go over here. Pull this out here. We're going to save. And then go out a half. Comes off the artboard. And 1. Click on the artboard to here. What happened here? There we go. This one needs to come off. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo this a little bit. So I'm gonna do this just a bit differently. I'm gonna come back just a little bit on my timeline and even that up. There we go. And then come back out to 4. And we still got some sort of weird squiggly thing going on there. And put it in place here. Come forward just a little bit. There we go. And my half second right there at the end. Spit it out. So now, we go around. So I'm going to select it, right click, and copy frames. And go out here where there's no frame at all and click and paste frames. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to reverse it. And I'm going to make it just slightly a little bit different. And I may even take this and stretch it. And that kind of spaced out the speed a little bit more. The second time it'll be just a little bit slower than the first time. And so now I'm going to rewind. I'm just going to watch it, make sure there's not anything crazy going on through here. It slows down. So I think that will work. I've got a little bit of weirdness going on right here. Straighten that out. There we go. You won't be able to see it because it'll be masked right there. But so now that's my motion train. I'm locking it. I need to copy all of my little cylinders. And I'm going to make a new layer. I'll copy those, lock that layer, click on my new layer, edit, paste in place. Oh, it doesn't look like it copied all of them. Let's try that again. Okay. Go. Edit, copy, edit, paste in place. And now I need to be able to turn this into a solid shape. So first thing I'm going to do is go through here. And turn off my stroke on all of these. And then select them all again. And I'm going to expand the fill. And I'm going to go to edit. And I'm going to go to cut. And then grab my box, black. I want to make sure my object drawing mode is off. I showed you guys this trick last week. Now, I have a separate color. If I click on it, I get my little dancing ants, just like I want. Now I want to go to edit. I want to go to paste in place. Now I've got a bunch of different dancing ants. I'm going to deselect everything, and then I'm going to come back through here and select the yellow, and I'm going to delete it because I need those to be hollow spaces for the most part. Not completely done, but it needs to be hollow spaces except for right in here, because I do want to be able to see that ball go through each one of those cylinders. So I'm going to have to actually draw and connect to that black. Bring this out. Oops. And not quite what I'm liking. I'm going to go ahead and turn my object drawing mode back on so that I can keep this as a separate piece for a moment. So. transform tool, so I get an entirely different circle there. I think that will be big enough. I'm going to copy this circle, paste it, and line it up for the next one. That, paste another one, and use it right here. I think that will do it. And then I'm going to right click on this layer and simply create mask. Oops, nope, layer's in the wrong place. Let's try that again. Let's go up here above my balls and do mask. There we go. So now let's see what we've got. We've got a bit of a problem right here. What is happening here? Everything's locked except for this layer. It looks like I'm not meshing together for some reason. So let's squish everything, bring it back. Let's see if that fixes it. Look. That looks good. That looks good. Let's try this again now. Yes. 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 Not too bad. It's a little quicker than I would like it to be. I'm going to take this, unlock it, and we're going to shorten it. There. I'm going to go back to my very first one here. And I'm going to copy these frames. And paste frames. And paste frames. And the first keyframe, scale that out so it's even. Unlock that again. And so now let's do some testing. Let me share my screen with you here. And there you have it. It's just a quick passing inside that cylinder and moving on. So just do something neat and creative, bouncing a ball or some cylinders or a door or a hole in the ground, anything like that. And the mask is great for making things grow, making things look like they pass through a door or a hole in the ground or a hole in a tree. And they're just really great for those kinds of things. So be sure you're playing around with these, with the masking, because it's going to come very handy in the biggest majority of your animations. A lot of you had a place where you're going to need to be able to mask something. So use the challenge this week to play with it and kind of get comfortable with masking. Now this would be a really great just little animation with some sound effects, and we will get into that in the coming weeks. And so I may come back to this with one of the challenges and say, pick a challenge and add some sound effects to it. This would be a great one for sound effects. Going through that little cylinder and maybe making a little like a whoop noise. every time it passes through, that sort of thing. So now it looks like I may have been having some sharing problems. I'm truly hoping that was not the case, but just in case it is, I'm going to take a moment. We're going to go back and we're going to look at what I did. I have my motion swing, which is this bottom one. And I just moved the ball around the path to get it to do what I wanted it to do. I have my masking layer. This is the masking layer here. This is the ball layer. And this is the cylinder layer. I can't spell cylinder today. This is the cylinder layer. This is your masking layer. This is what my masking layer looks like. Let's turn off my cylinders. Let's turn off my background. This is my masking layers. As you can see, I simply put black around everything but the part of the cylinder where I do not want the ball to show up. So when this is on, put my background layer back on, and we come through, you can see what happens. Anywhere there's black, the ball shows up. If there's not any black, the ball disappears. So it looks like it's passing through this cylinder every single time the ball comes through. And we get a nice little design. Just a nice little entertaining animation using the masking tool. And guys, like I said, you can do anything. You need something to disappear through a hole, it is the same. Make a hole in the ground here. Create a motion swing on this ball. And let's see where I am on my timeline. We don't want it to take that long. Here. And drag this down like this. And then make a new layer. And grab my square tool. Since I have a black hole, I'm going to do the mask in something different. That, and right click and mask. Now it goes down in that hole. So you could put little holes all over your screen and have your ball go in holes, appear at the top of the screen, go into another one, or have it shoot out. All kinds of quick stuff you could do here to make it look really cool. See, my ball is down right now, so I could go out to half a second, and I'm going to do insert keyframe off because I don't want the ball to move for half a second. And then I could go out here to number 2, and I'm going to turn off my masking layer for a second so I can see this ball. I can say I want it to grab it. Oops. Unlock my motion swing layer, grab it, shoot that ball up. I'm just going to bump off that cylinder. And it's going to come right back down really quickly. Right back down. So now I turn everything back on, lock all those layers so the mask works again. And now it goes down, Hold, boom, down. Looks like my mask isn't quite tall enough here. I'm going to click on it. Bring that up like that. There we go. Lock it again. Rewind. Let's play it again. Down in the hole we go. Shoots it back out. Bounces. Back down in the hole it goes. And so I could just keep repeating that, or have some couple of different holes and have the ball bounce. It goes into the other hole. Maybe that hole blows it at the bottom. It comes off the screen and comes back out another hole. Just do something really creative, really fun, just something interesting. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it, but customizing yourself with the masking usually makes making your animations a lot easier, because you're going to start thinking, oh wow, I could use this to mask this so it looks like this is happening, instead of trying to do frame by frame to make something look like it's happening. Sometimes just masking something will automatically create that optical illusion that makes it look like something is happening. So the weekly challenge this week is to play around with the masking tool and just create something interesting and kind of fun and entertaining that's, 5 to 10 seconds long. Don't spend a lot of time on it. So kind of like you did last week with your name. Just practice with your tools and using the masking and see what you can come up with. I can't wait to see the things, because last week you guys rocked the whole name thing. Those of you that did it, you guys rocked it. That was awesome. So I can't wait to see what you come up with the masking. I will see you guys tomorrow, and we will go through the demos for the assignment and the assessment. I'll see you guys later.